Hey, it's Esco Barça here, and today I'm going to be talking about the generation of Barça's youth academy La Masia that won the Uefa Youth League in 2018. As you'll see in this video, it was a team full of talented players, and since it had been a while there were some real promising players that came from La Masia, fans were very excited about this generation. As if you guessed from the title of this video though, none of them really made it in the first team, but some of them came close. Make sure to stay tuned as we'll go over all of the star players of Barcelona's former youth team and look where they are now. First of all, in goal there was Inaki Pena, and out of all the players on the list, he's maybe the only one who's still got a future at Barcelona. As a goalkeeper brought up in La Masia, he's excellent with the ball on his feet and he's known for being a very cold-blooded goalkeeper under pressure. A goalkeeper that perfectly fits Barca's way of playing. As Ter Stegen has been the main first team goalkeeper for years now, there's never really been an opportunity for him. Surely not if you add the fact that Barca had second goalkeepers like Citizen and Neto during that time. He never got a chance in the first team, and that's why in January 2022 Barcelona loaned him out to Galatasaray. There he made a good impression, and after Neto left this summer he finally became Barca's second goalkeeper. So from now on he'll definitely get opportunities every once in a while, and after Ter Stegen retires he might become Barca's first goalkeeper. So for Inaki Pena there's still some hope, in contrary to most of his former teammates. Cuz, next on our list is right back Mateu Morey. You've maybe heard his name once, but he's definitely not the most popular player from this team. That's mainly because when his contract expired in 2019 he chose not to expand it and went to Borussia Dortmund. There he has played a game every now and then for the last couple of years, but he's mainly been on the bench and has been struggling with injuries. He's only 22 years of age, but you would have probably expected a brighter start to his professional career. Then we've got our first centre back and captain of the team when they won the Youth League, Oscar Mingueza. After the season they won the Youth League, he gradually made his way up to Barca's B team. There he was a rotational player and not even one of their real star players. But despite that, he made his way up to the first team in the 2020-2021 season under Ronald Koeman. Barca's first team lacked centre backs, and Koeman saw a lot of potential in Mingueza. That season for Barca he played a good amount of games and he definitely had his impact every once in a while. He even started playing as a right back due to the lack of options Koeman had in that position, and he actually did quite well. It's not like people considered him to be the next Puyol, but many did see him as a player that could be of good use for the next decade. Next season though, he wasn't really improving and even made more mistakes and was in worse form. Consequently, he got less minutes and this summer he wasn't in Xavi's plans anymore, so he went to Celta Vigo on a free transfer. So again, a player that never really made it in the first team, but he might still go on to have a good career, which I hope for him will happen. Next to Mingueza at centre-back was Chumi, a player that has been forgotten by a lot of fans by now probably. Back in 2018 though, he was one of the more promising players in the team. In the season after they won the Youth League, Ernesto Valverde gave him some minutes in the first team in the Copa del Rey, so he definitely saw some potential in the young centre-back. But that was all he really did for Barca's first team. For the rest of the season, and also the season after, he was a reliable defender for Barca B's team. His contract expired in the summer of 2020 though, and it wasn't expanded anymore, so he eventually joined Almeria. There he still plays today, but I don't immediately see him becoming the player that some might have expected him to become some years ago. So again, someone in his squad who never really lived up to his true potential. Then we've got the left back position that was occupied by Juan Miranda. He was seen as one of the brightest talents in this team, so it's no surprise that he didn't only play for Barca B the coming season, but also made his professional debut for the first team. In the Copa del Rey, Valverde gave him some minutes, and in the Champions League he played the full 90 minutes at home against Tottenham. That was all the game time he got on the first team though, and consequently he was loaned out to German club Schalke in the summer of 2019. There he got more minutes than he would have gotten in Barcelona, but he wasn't more than a rotational player either. So at the end of his loan spell he returned to Barcelona. We then loaned him out again, this time to his childhood club Real Betis. There he was more important of a player and he had a real impact as their left back. So after that season, when his Barca contract had expired, he joined Los Verdi Blancos on a free transfer. And next season he again had his impact and they won the Copa del Rey. So Juan Miranda is definitely happy today to be a valuable player for his childhood club, but he never became the successor of Jordi Alba at Barca that many expected him to become. Next, in defensive midfield, we've got Jandro Orellana. A player that a lot of Barca fans have been excited about for a long time, but also never really made it. And most of you probably don't even know where he is now. So what happened to him after they won the Youth League? Well, he played for Barca B, and for years he was actually one of their better players. but he never really was given any opportunity by either Valverde, Setien, Koeman or Xavi. And if you think about it, it's not easy to get opportunities in the first team as a defensive midfielder, in a team where you've got Sergio Busquets who almost always plays there, and then still somebody like Frenkie de Jong. So probably both because of the fact no manager really was convinced of him and the fact that Barcelona didn't need a defensive midfielder, he never got a chance in the first team. And this summer he went to FC Andorra, who play in the Spanish second division. So it's definitely fair to say he never truly lived up to the expectations. Then, in front of him in midfield, he had the one and only Riqui Puig, probably the most talented player in this team. The season after they won the Youth League, he went on to play for Barça B, but he also got his first minutes in the first team under Ernesto Valverde. Valverde didn't play him in more than just a couple of games though, but his time at Barça definitely wasn't over yet. Next season, after Valverde had been sacked, Setien also gave him some game time, and he seized his opportunity with both hands. Under Setien in La Liga in 2020, he broke through in the first team and in some games he was one of Barça's best players on the pitch. And as he was still only 20 years old, many saw him as the man to lead Barça's midfield for the next 10 years. But from there on, it started to go wrong. After that season, Setien got sacked and Barça's new coach was Ronald Koeman. As most of you probably know, they didn't have a great relationship, and consequently, Koeman only really gave him minutes as a substitute every once in a while. Nobody perfectly knows why their relationship was bad, but it might have been because Puig once leaked Koeman's lineup before a game. That's still only speculation though, it might not be true. And Koeman also didn't have to put him on the field, with other young players at his disposal like Pedri, Ilaix Moriba, Gavi and Nico Gonzalez. But eventually, Koeman got sacked when Puig was still at the club, so there seemed to be new hope for him in the new era under Xavi. But to the disappointment of many fans, he also got little game time under Xavi. He was definitely still a talented player, but he maybe lacked a bit of professionalism, and compared to players like Pedri and Gavi, he was just worse and older. So then it's only logical that he wasn't too high up in Xavi's pecking order. That's why this summer he left the club and joined LA Galaxy on a free transfer. There he has actually been great thus far, but it's only the MLS of course, which is a big difference in quality compared to La Liga or the Champions League. And though he's still only 23 years of age and still has a future in front of him, it's fair to say that he hasn't been able to truly live up to the expectations. A couple of years ago he was Barcelona's biggest talent, and he was supposed to be the new Iniesta. You can tell me what you want, but he won't ever reach an Iniesta level anymore, if you ask me. So he's definitely another player who just didn't really make it, which is a real shame. The third and last player in midfield was Alex Collado, another player that fans really expected a lot from but never truly made it. After winning the Youth League, he went on to play for Barça's B team, but just as many others, he also got a little bit of minutes in the first team under Ernesto Valverde. But it wasn't more than just one game in La Liga, and the year after nothing really changed under Setien. And the same goes for the next year under Ronald Koeman. No manager really put his full trust in him, which was weird because he was easily one of the most talented players out there and was Barça B's captain as well after a while. As a midfielder, there maybe was just too much wealth in the first team for him to have an opportunity, with players like Frenkie de Jong, Riqui Puig and also Pedri in his last year. He can also play as a right winger who likes to drive inside though, but that role was occupied by Lionel Messi. So yeah, the competition wasn't really fair. So the season after, in January, he left the club on loan, after having spent half a season in the stands because Barcelona hadn't found a deal for him in summer. He went to Granada and there he definitely had more minutes, though he wasn't one of their star players either. And after his loan spell ended, he was loaned out back again to Elche this time. So that's where he's at now. He's still young and has got most of his career in front of him, but it's again fair to say that he never truly lived up to his true potential. On the right wing position then, there was Abel Ruiz, also a player that a lot of people have probably forgotten about. He was again promoted to Barça B next year and also made his debut in the first team. He never really broke through though, that year or the year after, and in January 2022 he went on loan to Portuguese club SC Braga. There he was actually great and consequently Braga signed him permanently. Today he's still an important player for the Portuguese club, so he's maybe one of the players who's closest to his actual potential. Barça could have even used him well I think in Koeman's time, if you look at the lack of depth there was in attack sometimes. But he never made it at Barça and will probably never return to the Blaugrana again, though he might really have a good career. Next, in the striker position, played Alejandro Marques, maybe the least known player in the team, but he was of great importance in the Youth League. He also played for Barça B the season after, but he never got any minutes in the first team, and in January 2020 he left Barcelona for Juventus, where he also ended up playing for the B team. He's still under contract at Juventus, but hasn't made his first team debut yet. Last year he was loaned out to Sede Mirandes, who play in the Spanish 2nd division, and this year to Portuguese side Estoril Praia, who play in the 1st division. I think he definitely would have hoped to have been at a higher level at this point of his career, and just like all of the players on this list really, he probably won't ever reach his true potential. Lastly, at left wing we've got Carles Perez. He also played for Barça B and got some first team minutes the year after, but it was in the 2019-2020 season that he, unlike most of his former teammates, managed to make his first team breakthrough. Under Valverde that season, he was a rotational player that had a good impact when he was on the pitch. The competition was quite fierce though, with players like Messi, Griezmann, Dembélé and Ansu Fati, and eventually he left Barça on loan to join AS Roma. There he was also decent to say the least, which is why Roma ended up buying him for 30 million euros. The coming 2 years he would always have his fair share of minutes at a Roman club. He wasn't their star player, but definitely had an impact. This season though they've loaned him out to Celta Vigo, and there he'll undoubtedly make his impact too. He surely fulfilled a part of his potential and might have a good career, but again he's never made it at Barcelona, and I don't see him returning anytime soon. So that was the general lineup that the Blaugrana won the Uefa Youth League with in 2018. There were also some players on the bench of course, like Guillem Jaime and Arnau Comas, who are both not at Barça anymore right now, but I won't go in detail over all of the bench players, cause they weren't the most promising and talented players. In starting 11 there were a lot of really promising players though, and most fans definitely expected some of them to be part of Barcelona's next world-class team. But none of them ever made it, and most of them never even got close to fulfilling their true potential, apart from Inaki Pena maybe. This really goes to show you that if you've not shown it at the very highest level yet, you cannot be sure if you're gonna make it. And it's even quite scary to realize that none of these players will ever become world class. So that's why this is the lost generation of La Masia. That was it for today's video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and feel free to share your own opinion in the comments down below. Força Barça and have a good day.